When the sons of the first people return, the codes awaken, the ancestors stir, and the future aligns.
Alapia up number 11 of Bruce Stone. Man, we in for a treat tonight. How everybody doing?
Give thanks. Thank you.
Man.
I don't know if y'all know it or not, man, but it's gonna be a good show. It's a lot of alchemists in the building tonight. We're with the presence of Universal Frequencies himself. Universal Frequencies. We also have Roz Nem in the building, the one and only, the Jedi Master in the building. And last but not least, Roz Ben himself. We are on the Jedi Council tonight. And I'm very, very happy because these are some people that I've learned a lot of information from when it comes to this mineral world. So we're doing a mineral report tonight. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with Universal Frequencies. Nice to have you back, brother. How you been? And tell us a little bit about yourself, guy. Introduce yourself if they don't know who you are.
Man, Universal Frequencies, now is the vibrate, you know what I'm saying? Been sharing my journey for the last 10 years, through the YouTube, getting into creating the crystals, making the copper jewelry, has been a thing, but mostly just being basically like a ontological scientist. If you're familiar with my YouTube channel, I always use the law of correspondence and use the quote that anatomy is mythology by law of correspondence. And that's something that I like to dive deep into and mixing it with the mineral knowledge as well, but just simply, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. It's an honor to have you back with us. Roz Nem, how you feeling tonight?
I'm thankful, man.
I'm thankful, brother. I'm thankful. Again, motivated and inspired, It's really rewarding for so long. The work has gone on somewhat of a solitary mission. I've had very few that I could consult with in the processes, in the research and the development. Ross Ben has been there from the earlies, and he's affected the work we're doing at Infinite Treasures tremendously. So I share the sentiment that since we have been connecting these past couple strengths, more fuel for the fire, So man, I'm thankful to be here, and I'm excited for what I'm learning. You know what I'm saying? Like we say, we never really proclaim no mastery. That's the first step to closing the mind for more wisdom to flow in. So the years render us certain levels and angles, but the youth come with a new spark, a next vision for where this thing goes next. So I'm just thankful to be one in a number as we continue to research and bring these ancient future technologies forward.
Hey, God Roz Ben, the one and only. How you doing tonight? What's been going on, God?
I'm thankful. I got to echo a lot of what Ras Naeem just shared, where, I've been in the lab for a couple of decades, and, it's exciting to see the young ones of today inspired to, get a better relationship with the mineral kingdom. And they consider the works we've been doing in the lab all these decades to be, valuable and important and relevant, and are including us in the conversation 2026. I can't take it for granted, So I've been reflecting on that a lot. And yeah, man, thankful to be in the place,
I say, man, with no further ado, man, because I know we all on limited time. And when I tell y'all the last couple of weeks we've been doing shows, each one of you have given us a lot of information if they took the time to go research and study it. Tonight, before anything else, because I know we got lost in translation last time, but man, you gave us so much information about how certain minerals react to certain things within our bodies. You kept on saying in the indigenous culture, the pancreas holds the spiritual meaning or the spiritual memory. You know what I'm saying? And then you were breaking down how the pancreas, how certain stones connect to the pancreas, the liver, and the kidneys. I don't think we pay attention to those organs enough. You know what I'm saying? Along with the placenta, but I'm gonna say that for another day. But please break down, God, or whichever guy wants to touch it first. Let's go before we get anywhere else. Let's drop some science. Can you break down that again for us about the placenta, the pancreas, the liver, and the kidneys? What stones and minerals can help us with those?
All right. Now, I'm going to inspire everyone listening once again. You have to study your body. You have to study the chemistry of man, right? Our alchemy. You know how chemistry and alchemy, right? They come from the word chemet. And when we would be students in the schools of Kemet across the arch, it would always say, what? Man, know thyself. And so all that's interrelated. Like, of course, you have to know yourself mentally and historically and culturally and all those things, but you do have to know yourself alchemically, you know, the chemistry of yourself. And we have to have a better relationship with the mineral kingdom. Like, you know how a lot of our soil is depleted now? So we'll eat food stuff, but you know, it looks like food, but it's not putting the minerals and the elements forward into our body, you know? So we have to know each organ in our body, right, serves a certain function. And if you study that organ, more than likely it's going to like operate on a certain element or mineral, right? So you got to know where the minerals and elements congregate within your body and the functions they do, and what uh ailments or diseases might manifest if that element is absent or are lacking or maybe too much, you know? So in getting a better relationship with the elements, right? We have to really have a good relationship with the mineral and plant kingdom, right? The plant kingdom is the way we can internalize those elements. Because we can't just eat any old crystal, you know. There's salt, there's shilajit, there's you know, certain some of the zeolites. There's certain crystals you can eat, but then there's some, you know, most of them are even if we ate them, our body couldn't assimilate them or metabolize them, right? We need a good relationship with the plant kingdom or the botanical kingdom. Know what plants have what elements in them. And, you know, because crystals alone aren't going to do it, plants alone aren't going to do it. If we say we want a better relationship with the elements, for example, let's say you got a job to do, right? And the way you were taught that job, there were 5 tools shown to you. Yeah, you do this job with these 5 tools, right? But then let's say while you working, one of the tools breaks, what are you going to do?
Improvise.
You're going to find a way to get that job done with the other 4 tools available to you, right?
Yes, sir.
And so let's say you find that way, right? And then someone puts that 5th tool back on the table, right? Is that 5th tool now going to be in the way? Or are you going to be able to reincorporate it into the rhythm you got, right? Your cells are in the same situation, and your cells behave the same way. So let's say your grandfather, your great-grandfather, they fell out of relationship with certain elements. Your cells is going to find a way to make it work without it, right? And rewrite that DNA like, yo, this is how you do it. So even if someone, let's say you now, right, you 3 generations down with that DNA, right? Now you self-aware and all that. We super conscious. We super, so we drinking teas to give us that element back in our body, right? But our cells, the DNA and the way our cells been moving for a couple generations, it fell out of relationship with that element of that mineral, right? So even though it's back in us, are we assimilating it and metabolizing it properly? Our cells don't know it. So then what do they need? They need that crystal so that the elements can talk. You know how like when you be having certain crystals and you could tell there's some communication going on. It's not
Yes,
might
sir.
not be in English, might not be in a language you understand, but it's in a language your cells understand, right? And so your cell, the aventurine, we were talking about that chromium, right? So the most common crystal to get a better relationship with chromium is aventurine, green quartz, right? So you holding that green quartz, then your spleen can be like, your pancreas can be like, oh, this is you at chromium. Okay, good, Uh-huh. All right. I see how I could fit you in my molecular structure. I see how I can reconfigure my DNA to, you know, work with you a little better. And oh yeah, they drinking that chromium rich tea. Okay, it's in my body. All right. And then, because we do know most this physical diseases have an emotional, mental shadow, like it's brought on like uh diabetes, right? Not being able to metabolize sugar is a reflection of the psycho-spiritual issue that's plaguing our community, finding the sweetness in life. How does a slave find sweetness in life? How does the descendants of slaves find sweetness in life? That's like, I ain't claiming no slave identity, but I'm just saying that's the reality a lot of our community faces. And a lot of our community, you know, are looking for the sweetness in life. And that manifests as diabetes, And all that's ultimately a poor relationship with the element chromium, right? So chromium is stored only one place in the body, and that's the pancreas. And a deficiency in chromium, which means element of light. Chrome means light. Chromium means element of the light, right? So we do need to study each element etymologically, right? So we do understand or comprehend what each element's property is, right? 'Cause hydrogen means to produce water, right? So if we've got to stay hydrated, what does that mean, right? And, you know, each element got a name. That name is important. We should, know what that means. So when that element's lacking in our body, we know what's going on, and we know what it is. We should know what that element crystallizes as, at least one or two crystals that, oh, that's that element. And we should know what plants, what teas, what foods we can internalize that element. If we want to be responsible for our own health and wellness, not just, going to doctor every day or, whatever, once a month or whatever. We're taking responsibility for our own wellness. 2026, we have to have a good relationship with the mineral kingdom and the plant kingdom.
I say, I say. Before we move on from that, universal frequencies. Do you have anything to tag on to that?
Man, when he mentioned chromium, the first thing that came up to mind is stitch tight. And I came across these Atlanticite pieces, basically that's serpentine mixed with stitch tight, and looking up chromium, and like Ross Ben is going on with the diabetes aspect and working with the pancreas. So yeah, it's like knowing the elements and looking at the crystals from the elemental perspective as well. Because also along with stitch tight, and I grabbed a little piece of this Atlanticite. The purple part is the stitch tight, and then the green part is serpentine. So while we're on elements, also with the nervous system, like I was researching the nervous system and I saw like, magnesium helps with the nervous system. And so I looked up crystals that was high magnesium, and serpentine and pneumite happen to be two crystals that's high magnesium, So it's like working with those magnesium based crystals for the nervous system. And I say the two highest, there are others, but when I was looking at the chemistry or the chemical formula, those two are high magnesium,
Yes.
So
that's the
it's
approach, brother. That's the approach. Give thanks.
Because one thing is always like when we're, quote unquote, breaking things down and building, is like going to the raw elements of things, quite literally and figuratively.
Exactly.
So it's not just about
what elemental. Yes.
Not just about what the crystal book may say, but kind of go look at what elements is in the crystal and the structure of the crystal. And also what I've been looking into lately is also like the color of a crystal, because of the wavelengths, because that's a vibration as well. But just to add to that, like, the peeping out the elements, because even right now, like I was peeping out like with the little piece I put together right here, is a lot of calcium based crystals in it. I got the fluorite, which is calcium. I got a apophyllite, has calcium in it, and I also have Larimar. And Ross Ben just mentioned hydrogen, and that's one of the reasons why I threw the Larimar in there, because basically with this piece I was thinking of like water and flow energy, because I'm practicing Tai Chi. And it's like, all right, I want to, you know, tap into the water energy, tap
flow.
into the flow, you know. And so, you know, it's like paying attention, and also like what elements are the antagonists to others, you know, because magnesium is the antagonist to calcium. So it's like making sure, like, all right, if I'm working with this magnesium crystal, I got to also look at the side effects of like using too much magnesium, because calcium is to cause blood clots, and then magnesium is to open up those clots, you know. So it's like finding that balance with, you know, how you're applying it, you know, and then also as somebody, as I mentioned, Tai Chi, you know, that's a part of like one of my meditations is the inner smile, you know, doing Tao exercises and smiling to my liver, smiling to my spleen, you know, and the spleen and the pancreas and the stomach kind of connected to the Saturnian energy. So you also kind of get like a planetary connection as well, you know, Saturn connected to the hexagon shape, you know, the six-sided shape. So hexagonal crystals could also possibly be helpful for that energy as well, you know. So it's just like, again, like Ross Ben was elaborating on, man, and building on, is like knowing the elements and how that connects to our body and peeping out our chemistry, our unique ancestry to really see, you know, what's unique to our, you know, physical and subtle body, you know. So
give thanks, brother. That is the vision I hope to inspire in all of us.
I see.
Yes.
Quick question. I know we wear it, and the brothers talk about the intake of these stones, but we can't intake it with our mouth. So you said by wearing it, we absorb it. When we sit with them, when we hold them while we meditate, is that also absorbing it for our healing?
Yeah. Well, when you have a relationship with a crystal, right, you're giving your cells an opportunity to communicate through resonant affinity with their corresponding elements. Yeah. Because remember, we mentioned last strong. There's this one word. It's kind of a big word. We don't use it often, but it is the foundation of all of this. It's the word consubstantiation. We're all the same substance. So the same iron in your hemoglobin is the same iron in hematite. You know, the same selenium in your pineal gland is the same selenium in selenite. The same manganese in your heart is the same manganese in rhodochrosite and rhodonite. The same calcium in your bones is the same calcium in calcite, right? And so they got a relationship with each other. So when you hold that crystal, it's going to speak to the elements in your body, not English, right? So, yeah. If you want to call it absorption, you know, but I would say more like communion, communication, you know, exchanging information and energy. Yeah.
And one more, Rise. Now get on in this because I'm about to ask another good question. We went from wearing the crystals, holding the crystals. Some of them we can take as supplements. What about bathing with them? Would it be good to soak? I know when I get in the tub, I put mineral salt in my tub and mineral oils, things of that nature. What if I put some stones in my shungite? A couple of these other stones you said. I don't want to mess up no stone like not like selenite. But what if we put other stones in our hot tub and just soak for a couple hours?
Right. Well,
So you see these.
we know. Oh, go ahead, Ross.
You see this. This is one of those so critical in these times. This is shungite. Right? Shungite is a superconductive carbon. I think we've spoken about it. Has all kind of benefits. The way it pulls toxins out of the environment, it can pull toxins out of us. So in order that the folks in my household can get the benefit of this mineral, We have 2 of these that sit in the base of our 5-gallon water dispenser. You know, we don't have the one that's air conditioned or cooled or whatever. It's just room temperature, but it's a ceramic basin. 2 of these at the base. This is how we get our shungite. Each dawning, really with the rising and the setting, I have 2 cups, 1 shungite, 1 copper cup that I fill on the altar, you know, fill them up. So at the end of the day, I get a shot of shungite. I get a shot of copper. First thing in the rising, shot of shungite, shot of copper. So for me personally, these elements are so beneficial navigating a very saturated environment, vibrationally saturated. A lot of them vibrations I don't want to hold on to. So my regimen is just already having it in the water where I don't have to think about it. You know what I'm saying? So another method of application is, like you say, setting the stone in your water. Once you've identified there's a stone that you want to um, establish a stronger relationship with it, crystals will program water. Water is a phenomenal medium, the way it takes on the energetic signature of other elements, So yes, placing stones in water is another method that you can get the vibrational potential of a stone in sync with your body. And then one more analogy before I pass the mic is Ross was offering a vision of how to interpret how minerals affect us. If you think about a gong, right? Gong has a very pronounced sound, especially once when you strike it. But the reality is, the gong is always giving off that sound, even when it's not struck, and when it's moving in such a way where we can pick it up with our ear. It's still giving off that same frequency. You know, um, think about the cicadas. The cicadas are those big. They look like flies, but they're huge, and they make the noise up in the trees. And one of them would kick off, and it's like other ones get triggered by the one, and in just a little while, when there's a swarm of them up there, it sounds like a alien ship is approaching. The collective sound that they create, it's a lot more influential on our ability to sense the cicada and everything else in their environment. So, with that analogy, we say because of how long it takes for the minerals to form and how stable they are once they emerge from the womb of the earth, now they're in the atmosphere of the earth. Their stable frequency has this how can I say it? It cancels out a lot of the lower frequencies that we can find ourselves subject to. So where our body, like you say, our calcium may be somewhat compromised because we may be in an environment and or of a diet that we're taking in things that are not beneficial to calcium. Having the calcium rich stones around our person is just kind of like having a vibrational force field that we step in that is conducive to calcium, and that without necessarily without metabolizing it, we can still be under the influence of calcium in its natural order. So couple ways to just try to offer an insight into how this exchange is happening, because it's not a biochemical exchange. We're not like a lot of the foods where I mentioned, a lot of the minerals are hard to assimilate because most of them require a enzyme translator to assimilate into our cells. So the processed food, whenever we process food, especially vegetables, we kill all the enzymes. So, iron-rich food that's been cooked, we can eat it. We're just going to pass that through because the iron didn't have the necessary accompanying enzyme for it to actually be assimilated into our cells. So, yeah, just offering insights into how we're working every angle. Once we realize we have a need for certain minerals in our life, in our body, for our health, wealth, and strength, then yes, we want to put them in positions internally, externally. Yes, whatever way is again safe, because some minerals will have a toxicity. So the research is crucial. Make sure you check and double check before you start, even with elixirs. that, you know, soaking stones in water, make sure you double check that that particular element doesn't have a toxicity effect if you're taking it internally.
I say. You have something to add to that, Ross?
I just want to affirm what Ross is saying, that water is a great medium for, you know, not just cleansing, but exchanging energy and information, right? And so if you put crystals in your bath water, and right, you got a certain intention, a certain vision, informing that crystal is going to inform that water. The same thing, you know. And the studies of Michio Kaku has shown that water can be structured or made like, you know, made its element, its minerals, excuse me, its atoms can be structured into a beautiful crystal, you know. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to introduce a mineralogical crystal to the water, and you know, uh that'll help structure the water, and that's, you know, I would think healthier or better for you to have structured water, particularly coming out of municipal uh plumbing lines, you know, because I have heard municipal sewage and water systems can make the water angry.
Mm.
Okay, and we'll leave it at that. But you know, y'all know what I'm talking about. Flint, Michigan know what I'm talking about, right? Municipal water can be angry sometimes and be toxic sometimes, right? So you wouldn't want to bathe in angry water, right? You'd want to, if the water in your tub is angry, you'd want to please it, or you know, give it some grace or something, right? Before you get in it. So putting your crystal in the water would be great.
I see. Before we get moving forward, I wanted to ask y'all, man, because I've had a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life come on the show, but y'all are dead serious. Not just that talking about it, but y'all dead serious about the whole Rasta thing. Can y'all break that down for us? What is Rasta, or what is? Because I mean, a lot of people talk about it and everything else, but I want to be serious about it. What do y'all represent? Because I've had a lot of people on the show represent a lot of different things. What does the Rasta stand for? What are y'all pillars? What do y'all represent?
You want to open with that, Ross, or?
Part of our creed, not even part of the foundational creed of Rastafari, hungry be fed, naked clothed, sick nourished, age protected, infants cared for. It's speaking to this thing, what we're calling morality. His Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, Jah Rastafari, most folks may know more popularly, is 225th of the Solomonic line of kings of Ethiopia. And without going into a long drawn out, because that's a very loaded question, Orisha Stone. But to try to summarize, if there's even an effective way to do so, we in the 1930s, all of the African continent was colonized, you know, all except one piece up in the kind of northeastern part. And the European powers had their eyes on that as well. When they attempted to take it, they learned a valuable lesson. His Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, being in this lineage, he was prepared for leadership from a young age, and his father checked out early on. His father was also a very important person of power in Ethiopia. In 1896, when, again, the majority of the African continent was colonized, Italy attempted to come into Africa and take not an important piece, but the oldest piece. Right. Came for Ethiopia. It attempted to take the oldest piece of Ethiopia. Part of this reasoning is because, again, of things old back in the Bible during Solomon's days when his children and his dominion were being spread throughout the earth, right? But when Italy tried to come and get Ethiopia in 1896, they were turned back in a single day at a battle called the Battle of Adwa. This is, like I'm saying, modern mechanized warfare. And these Ethiopians didn't have modern mechanized weapons. They had old, ancient, spiritual technology and
right, because some would say that was the last time the Ark of the Covenant.
The last time they pulled the Ark out in
battle.
It's the last time they pulled the Ark out in battle, right? This is, again, 1896. The emperor of the day is Menelik II. His first cousin, Ras Makonnen, is the father of Rastafari. Ras Makonnen had the largest military. He was a governor. Ras is a title. It's the name of a provincial lord, right? Provincial lords are seen as kings.
He is rising in power.
He who is rising in power. So seeing that he had the largest governorance, right? In another part of that, his governorance is Harar. Ras Makonnen's governorance was Harar. And in Harar, you have the largest population of Muslims in Ethiopia, even though
Harar is the fourth holiest place in Islam.
Fourth holiest place in Islam, and Ethiopia is a Orthodox Christian nation. So His Majesty's father, His Majesty Haile Selassie's father, had the responsibility to govern the largest governorship, of whom had the largest population of Muslims, and he himself is an Orthodox Christian, devout Orthodox Christian. Right, but his men rose up to fight for him and for Ethiopia when the Italians came and tried to take Ethiopia in 1896. He had the largest army, so he was Field Marshal General, meaning he was giving instruction to all the other Rosses and their military and their armed forces to combat this invader. Right, the military strategy was so ingenious and so effective that they ousted these cats in one day. The Battle of Adwa, A-D-O-W-A, Adwa.
In 1896.
1896. It was the sign that rung out around the world that, it was the first time since Hannibal of Carthage that an African military force had defeated a modern European mechanized army, right? So this was a big deal, even though we don't hear about it. In the days of our grandparents and great-grandparents, this was a pretty big deal, right? Because of how big of a deal it was, the emperor of the time, Menelik II, decreed at that time that his first cousin, who was the field marshal general who engineered this military genius, would be then the heir to the throne. That is Haile Selassie's father, Ras Makonnen. Fast forward, Ras Makonnen passes prematurely. Tafari is taken into tutelage, and he's still brought up. Makonnen's men would not leave him. Ras Makonnen's men would not leave the side of Haile Selassie. So he inherited his father's military. Within a few years, he inherited his father's governance. Because of how well he was as a head of state at a very young age, he quickly rose through the ranks. And by the age of 24, he was considered a regent plenipotentiary, which is like the equivalent of a prime minister. Right, he eventually became the political head that represented Ethiopia before he was 30 years old. Right, so again, there's a lot of details. I can't necessarily go into all the details without bogging down the show. I want to keep the flow of information going, but those of us who study history, mystery, prophecy, we understand the place Ethiopia holds. And in the days after, well, like I say, the early 1900s, you have Marcus Garvey, rising through the ranks, speaking of universal improvement for Africans and offering the prophetic sound, look to the east for the crowning of a king, right? And His Majesty get crowned and anointed in 1930, right? Where you get a lot of what you call jousting for the throne, right? Political posturing, folks who want political power and do whatever they can to get it. His Majesty refused to seize power, right? The throne was vacant for a period of time. The empress, who was relative to His Majesty before taking the throne, passed. Zwaditu. Not Zwaditu. Yes, Zwaditu was cousin of His Majesty. When she passed, the throne was empty. All manner of folks, because of the position that His Majesty Haile Selassie was already carrying out for Ethiopia, insisted His Majesty take the throne. His Majesty refused to take the throne. The throne remained empty. Mind you, all kind of civil wars and things had been going on, folks trying to take this throne. His Majesty refused to take it when it was right there, here's for the taking. It wasn't until the Abuna, the high priest of Ethiopia, right? Because again, the Coptic Christian faith is a state religion. Ethiopia is Christian from a long time, the first Christian nation, right?
That first Christian nation.
That thing run deep in Ethiopia. So political folks jousting for the throne. That's what happened to one of the characters who was actually in line to be on the throne. He was covertly doing things to convert the nation to Islam. And once the priesthood found out about it, he was removed.
And
right?
we should tell him that's Menelek's son. So the
that was Menelek's son, yes.
own son, who
Next
would
in
have
line
been
for the
the
throne.
natural line to the throne, was considering Islam. And so
next in line only
the church,
because of the death.
Ethiopian Orthodox Church couldn't support that.
Right.
So
Yes.
that again that made them throw their support behind Rastafari to be the next emperor.
And more than the support, it was on his shoulders, because this is like, again,
they crowned him. Yes.
They said, look, you Rastafari, Selassie, you know what this is. This goes against everything that the church stands for. We basically got a rogue out here creating all kind of conflict, because he didn't go without force. It sparked a civil war in Ethiopia. So Haile Selassie, Rastafari, had to go deal with Legiasu, right, who was the son of Menelik, who was trying to convert the nation to Islam, and his father, Ras Michael, who was also
converting to Islam, not the nation of Islam.
Right.
Not no Farrakhan.
No.
Elijah Muhammad thing, but Islam.
Islam. And mind you, right, Ethiopia, even though it is a Christian nation at that time and until today, is surrounded by Islamic nations, right? Surrounded by Islamic nations.
The Hijra, Ethiopia is important to Islam because the Hijra happened in Ethiopia. Meaning
Prophet Muhammad, yep. He received refuge
when he was coming into himself in like that area of Arabia, right? The kings of that land were like, nah, you ain't starting nothing new up in here.
Nah, persecution.
Now let me ask you a question.
Told his followers, go to Ethiopia. There's a fair Christian king in Ethiopia that will let you do what you do. And that event was called the Hijra. And where Muhammad's followers went was Harar. That's why Harar is the fourth holiest place in Islam after Mecca, Medina, and Jerusalem. the next holiest place to them is Harar, because they found refuge
in the
in
early days.
Ethiopia in the time of Muhammad. And so for the Christian Orthodox Church, they was like, you know, y'all do y'all thing, but we're going to keep our tradition. We don't want Liz Yasu to turn the nation Islamic, you know?
See,
I hope you don't mind me interjecting that part.
No, that's a crucial part. That's a crucial part.
That's why I asked for this question, because just the name Roz just broke down history. It's mineral report. We just skipped all over the Ark of the Covenant, but you also opened up another door. One, we got backdoored by Islam, and nobody looks at it like that. But you look at the Kaaba, like when you look at Star Trek, of the what do they call them, the board, how they want to assimilate everybody. But I think it's cowardism. They can call it Islamism, but it's called a cowardism because the first thing they did, they ran to Ethiopia for help. As soon as they got in power, they came back to Ethiopia to conquer. So we got to learn a lesson from that
Well,
too.
I mean, there's a lot with that too, because
Yeah.
the followers of Muhammad who found refuge in Ethiopia were not the ones attempted to invade. You know,
I think
were different schisms within Islam. There was different schisms, and so I'm not trying to bash Muslims. That's not my intention. I'm just putting the context of like why when Liz Yasu, who was Menelek's son, he was the emperor's son, he was in line to be the next emperor, right? The Ethiopian Orthodox Church had to be like, nah, we're not, you know, Rastafari, the throne is yours. You're Earth's rightful ruler.
Right. It wasn't until His Majesty was approached by the Abuna. The Abuna would be equivalent to the highest, like really not even equivalent,
like
because we know,
like the Ethiopian Pope.
That's right. And I didn't even want to put it on an equal level, but when it comes to structure, the structure of the church, right, it's the highest that you get in the church. His Majesty was approached by the Abuna, told him it's your time to ascend to the throne, and you're taking on your baptismal name, you know, which he had already had, Haile Selassie as a name, but it was a name he was given as a little boy when he was baptized. But once it was his time to take the throne, that's when he was charged to start using this new name, Haile Selassie, which means or interprets as the might or the power of the Holy Trinity, right? So this is how we get Haile Selassie. When this coronation took place, a lot of things.
November 2nd, 1930.
1930. Ethiopia had changed a lot in its history, and polygamy was pretty common. Slavery was common, and there were a lot of tendencies that, like you say, adapted over the years. One tradition that had been dropped from a long time was the simultaneous crowning and anointing of the emperor and the empress. It hadn't happened in a long time. I don't even know if it had happened in the modern era. But His Majesty, in his knowing and anticipation and authority to bring in the ancient traditions, his wife, Empress Min, crowned and anointed simultaneous with him, right? Again, this has taken us deep, deep into Nile Valley tradition and recognizing the divinity within the divine feminine, right? Because again, we're in the modern era, and patriarchy was very prevalent in Ethiopia. So again, I don't want to get too off in the weeds. There's so much to share. But as I was exposed to Rastafari as a young man, and was exposed to writing where I could do the research myself, study the history, and make the connections of how it connects to me personally as, like you say, the remnant of a great mighty race, the remnant of a people who have been subject to what they call cultural amnesia, right? To in the days of my youth, when I began to seek and to find the half that's never told, boom, Rastafari burst upon the scene. When I started doing that research and seeing how relevant it is to this time, to my family tree, to my family's experience in the West, and the unfinished business of proper cultural reorientation, yes, I see that it is morality in the king. It's morality in Emperor Haile Selassie before all the nations of the world. Because again, at this coronation, invitations were sent out. 72 different nations did come to bear witness of this crowning of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, the elect of God, light of the world, Haile Selassie. Yes, I. So,
well, like I said, I didn't put in
as a student of history, mystery, and prophecy, right? We read in Revelations this moving prophecy that said, "Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah
has prevailed,
shall arise and loose the seals, the 7 seals that bind the book of life." Right? So I studied that prophecy, and I only seen one person that can say they fulfilled that prophecy. Because on that day, November 2nd, 1930, a man from the root of David, from the tribe of Judah. What? Yeah. And you study Ethiopia and its legacy and the book of Enoch coming out of Ethiopia. It's like,
and it's sanctuary for Moses.
Yeah.
Sanctuary
It's
for
like
so
when
many.
you study Rastafari, even what we dealing with the mineral and botanical kingdoms, that's all like this Rastafari fulfilling his prophecy is said to loose the seals binding the book of life, the book on how to live, the book on, what we supposed to do to be sovereign, avoid European colonization, right? And stand firm in your divine right.
Yes.
With your empress by your side, smiling. That's what Rastafari teach I and I. Because if you study his life and the things that he, represented, embodied, demonstrated, stood for
on the world stage for all eyes to see, not someone tucked away, a monk up in the mountains, a priest or, a devout master. He had to do this for all eyes to see, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
For the whole world to examine and criticize. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
so, yeah, man.
Yeah. Real quick. When I said that about Islam, I said it. I didn't say you did. When I said it, I was speaking from facts as far as Muhammad. Everything I just said was in the life of the Prophet Muhammad. The book is within itself. And I studied Ethiopia from the time when it was a matriarch society, when it was under the land of Queen of Sheba, and going all the way to the time of Solomon. Even though people glorify Solomon and everything, but he wasn't a great person himself. Ethiopia has been colonized several times, and the European was the last one to think about it. But we don't want to acknowledge our other enemies. That's fine within itself. But with that being said, Ethiopia is the custodian of time and the custodian of the covenant of the Ark. And I really want to tap into that because mineral report. What do you know about the Ark of the Covenant? And do they have 2 Arks of the Covenant? The Ark of the Covenant and the Ark of I believe is the Ark of the Angel, or they call it the Ark of Gabriel.
Yes. Well, I'll mention the Ark of the Covenant in the context of the Kaaba too. I'll talk about them same way, right? Because the Kaaba is the holy black stone of Mecca, right? And they recognize it's a meteor. It's a Betel, right? A Betel, which means house of El, house of the powerful one, El, right? And it was supposedly a mystical meteor, and I ain't gonna get all into the tradition of it, but the Kaaba's in one place that Muslims have their pilgrimage to, right? The Ark of the Covenant, my theory, there's a lot of, there's a lot of talk about what it is and what it holds, what's inside of it, and this and that. I think there's a Betel inside the Ark of the Covenant. But the difference between it and the Kaaba, how the Kaaba's in one place and people make pilgrimages to it, the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark was made to be like a transportation for the Betel, for the house of the God, for the house of the powerful one. And yeah. That whatever type of meteorite being encased with, the structure of the ark being inlaid inside and out with gold, acacia wood, certain dimensions. It's got powers.
Very
You got to be
specific.
grounded, like how the priests, they always had to have certain rod and staff with them, grounding staff, when they was in the proximity of the ark, because if you wasn't grounded, you was gonna get zapped, right?
That part.
And yeah, you had to know certain protocols and ways to move when you in the area of the ark, because just like there's certain protocols if you had a high voltage
Electric plant.
nuclear fusion station, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, right? You can't just be unawares moving around. You have to know what technology you're working with. The ark was the same way.
I see.
And yeah. They said no army. We could go all into the ark, science of the ark, for 2 episodes. Because they say no army has the ark before it will lose in battle. And that's what we were just talking about, the Battle of Ottawa. That was the last time in recorded history the ark was pulled out. And why Is It Real took them Falasha to Ethiopia, from Ethiopia to Is It Real? And oh boy, we'll have to plan a whole nother show.
A whole session. That's going to take a couple sessions. But
yeah. We'll have to plan a whole show on that, brethren. So
We here now. We here right now. We in the present right here, right now. What universal frequency? We ain't got to be too far in the future. We ain't got to be too far in the past. We right here, right now. Listen,
let's talk about crystals, man, because this is getting into geopolitics and war.
No, when I asked the question, I was asking the question for a reason. And when you opened up the door for Ethiopia, that opened up the door for crystals, because to even get into the vicinity of the Ark of Covenant, you had to have crystals on.
Well, breastplate, 12 stone, the breastplate, the 12 stone breastplate,
yes, 12 stones, the and the Urim and the Churim on your shoulders.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, also, the Ark of the Covenant is pushing out radioactive energy. Like the guy said, it could be meteorite. It was very specific on how they told them how to put to create the ark in order to hold the frequency. Even the angel's wings are producing electricity within itself as well. That leads, but also shungite is very old stone as well. I'm not saying that shungite has anything to do with this, but shungite also breaks down electromagnetic frequencies, and those frequencies were killing them. Remember, through the Bible's perspective, anybody would even go and touch that because of the frequency or radiation that came from it, they would automatically die. So that goes into crystal technology of how the people that had the crystals on could even approach the Ark of the Covenant, and Ethiopia having this long lost knowledge. That's why initially why I asked the question.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And to answer part of your question, Arisha Stone, is that there is one authentic Ark of the Covenant, but almost every church in Ethiopia has a remnant or a relic of it as part of the Eastern Ethiopian Coptic tradition. Every church
have a copy of the Ark.
Has a copy of the Ark of the Covenant. Yes, but there is one authentic one. I think it's in the Cathedral of St. George in Axum, if I remember correctly. So yes, to answer that question, there are multiples, but there's one original. You know?
Yes, and if you ask me, right, and it's just you know, who knows, but this was the Ark of Ra that originated in Thebes, ended up on what's that, the island of
in the middle of Lake Tana?
Right there by Aswan. Ended up on an island by Aswan and then made its way into Ethiopia from there. The original. Yeah.
You ever heard of the Ark of Gabriel or the Ark of Satan?
No, I haven't.
I see. Universal frequency, touch on that a little bit. What do you have on the Ark of the Covenant?
Well, I'm not super well studied on the historian aspect, but you know how it comes to me is like what keeps popping in my mind is like, you know, also the personification of like Kundalini raising. And what was coming to mind was like how, but I just got on to shout out to my brethren Bridge of Ra, who did some collaborations on my channel. He's from Ethiopia, and he was bringing up the Afar people, and basically like the lowest sea level place in like the world is like somewhere in Ethiopia, and it's the Afar people, and basically how it's like almost like basically a lot of springs and sulfur and like volcanic energy. And then Ethiopia is also known for the highest heights as well. Hence why the cannabis and the coffee beans is, you know, some of the highest grade. And just again, like mythology is anatomy by law, you know, looking at the law of correspondence of it, it's like, all right, Ethiopia is a land that has one of the lowest points below sea level and known for its highest mountains. And I think of like the Kundalini having to travel from the root to the crown, and you having to be grounded, like again, as Rox was bringing up with having the staff and being grounded and not, you know, getting zapped or whatever. You know, it's basically like having the internal crystals on point, or again, like that quote unquote breastplate. And that's not to say that it may have not been literal, you know, in its expression. But again, like as you're asking me from my perspective, you know, in my little internal studies, I would say, you know, it points to like the Kundalini raising. And also, again, when you talk about like rocks and like the head and, you know, standing upright, not like a, you know, like a regular serpent, but almost like a cobra, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that also, where the whole pharaoh with the cobra thing on the head, but basically like raising that energy up and having to be grounded to be able to not, you know, basically maintain the mental health, you know, and make sure your body is in check, because that's a strong jolt of energy. So again, bringing it to the body of land is like, all right, you got the lowest, the lowest level below sea level, and the highest mountain, again, lowest root, highest point. you know what I'm saying? And just in the land itself, you know, the knowledge and wisdom is embedded on how to, like, you know, tap into the lowest point, you know, and the highest point, and being able to basically like ground yourself to have that travel. And again, like the Ark of the Covenant, from the perspective of like it being like the technology of like, again, like the vehicle, kind of like with the pyramids, how the pyramids is built in a manner that embodies the golden mean ratio, and our body does. So basically, the pyramid is almost like you could say like a representation of the human body. Although it don't have arms and legs, it has that same vibration of the golden mean ratio in it. And I feel like, again, whether it's the Ark of the Covenant or, you know, the Kaaba crystal, you know what I'm saying? But basically like certain monuments that basically have these measurements to in essence, to align with the human body and be a representation of the human body. So I would say, you know, again, like tapping into the Kundalini raising and having the energy to be grounded. Because again, a lot of that, like Ethiopia is like, when we talk about like you want to say what it was called, like the Kush Empire and things stretching all the way to, you know, what is modern day India. And, you know, everything is about like, you know, and again, as I'm saying this, I know like Ethiopia was tapped into this as well, you know, again, like the whole land, but basically like, again, like everything is about like that meditation and being able to handle that, you know, that Kundalini raising. Because again, like a lot of the symptoms of like having a Kundalini raising sounds exactly like being in the presence of the Ark of the Covenant, or like basically like having a strong DMT trip, or, you know, a DMT journey, I should say, you know what I'm saying? But basically like, you know, it's like you gotta be grounded or else, you know, it's gonna fry the system basically, you know? So, you know, bringing it into that, I would say, you know, and as I thought about it as well, like, and Ross Ben brought up the meteorites, I'm like, that made me think of my video where I did a little bit of research about like how most meteorites, whether it's moldavite or agnemanitite, I'm like, you know, it's possible that it could be also like volcanic glass, or like when a volcano erupts and the glass kind of, or should I say like the eruption from the volcano falls back down. And reason why I got to that, because I researched every area where meteorites is, you know, found at, and they all either have a dormant volcano or active volcano around it. Like there's like almost none of them are in an area where there's like no volcano. And so I was like, you know, looking at that connection. And again, as we talk about the far people, you know what I'm saying, in Ethiopia, again, like those well springs, those are hot springs, is basically because it's close to volcanic energy, is that low, and hence the sulfur that you know that you smell, and that's also connected to volcano energy as well. So, you know, it's certain connections with that, but, you know, I would say simply, you know, something connected to being able to raise a certain energy within the body, you know. And again, possibly also, again, like, because I also feel like this, like, as much as there is symbology in a lot of it, you know, there's a lot of literal aspects to, you know, a lot of the ancient scriptures and ancient texts as well. And again, I always kind of use the mythology of anatomy by law, because that helped for me to kind of sense like the part that you could say like undeniable from the perspective of, so say for instance, we consider the 7 laws of the universe to be like undeniable, you know, the law of cycles, the law of vibration, the law of polarity, you know, and again, the law of correspondence. And one I just used recently, I'm like, look at the example of like with our body, and when we're cleansing parasites out, I'm like, one of the aspects that stood out is like, oh, wait, to get rid of the parasites, you gotta basically stop, they eat heavy metals. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, you know, like the heavy metal, so as above, so below, as within, so without. To cleanse the parasites out of the body, you gotta stop feeding the body heavy metals. And I thought of like how, you know, the Western society, and then later kind of programming, you know, melanated people to have that attachment to, you know what I'm saying, the metals and stuff like that. And like I said, it's like you know, yeah, we wear our crystals, we tap in with the metals, the golds and all this, but it's like to not have an attachment to it and seeing that connection though, it's like, all right, quite literally, you know, what's bad for the body, those parasites, what they feed on, heavy metals, and then looking at how these government, like, you know, governmental bodies like fighting over gold, fighting over this, fighting over that. Now that also taps into some of our ancient aspects as far as from the, you could say like the quote unquote toxic aspect of like attachment to treasure, because hence why the dragons and some Nagas, you know, had an attachment to treasure, you know what I'm saying, and attachment to the metals on that level. So, you know, it kind of connects to that as well. But like again, I feel like, especially in America, like a lot of us been, you know, programmed into that like attachment and to value it to that extent. And again, like if we were taught to eat healthier and live healthier and things of this nature, it would be more of us tapping in with it and not necessarily attachment to it. Because the attachment comes in when you're looking to unalive your brethren or sister for that gold or metal, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, no judgment, but like bringing up the awareness, you know, and again, using the law of correspondence, because the only way somebody could argue against that is to say, oh, the law of correspondence is fake. And you know, most teachers, like, you know, what is, you know, matter of fact, Ross Ben, you know, like watching him from the Bobby Hemmett lectures, you know, like Phil Valentine, like all the teachers across the board, you know, white, black, orange, walk with a limp, walk straight, you know what I'm saying? Like the law of correspondence all, you know, kind of comes into that truth. So it's like looking at the body and, you know, looking at the earth and seeing like the mythological stories. And even one, again, like what Brother Panic had brought up about like his Judy K. King book, and about like how the story of the RNA and the DNA is connected to the mythology with Jehudi and scripting and writing on that level. So it's like, you know, looking at the internal aspect. And again, that goes full circle, you know, to how we started off, where Ross was talking about like the pancreas, you know what I'm saying, and the body and, you know, certain elements and stuff like that. So it's like the internal story is also connected to the mythological story as well, you know, because again, with Ethiopia, you know, it's like that connection to tapping into that Christ energy in the original aspect of tapping into that Christ energy. And hence why, you know, when you look at things, it's like, damn, why everybody wanted to make Ethiopia look bad? Because although I don't consider myself a Rastafari like that anymore, that's where it kind of started for me, because I'm like, man, as I start researching, it's like, man, you know, the little kids ain't got flies in their face. And like, you know, it's like, bro, these people on point, you know what I'm saying? And why would somebody want to like hate on one area that bad? You know, it's like they got to be, you know, tapping into something besides the other, you know, historical knowledge and stuff like that. So it's like, all right, it's something out there. And as I've been looking at it lately, I'm like, oh yeah, Ethiopia, you know, I see why, you know, it's considered, you know, a sacred space, you know what I'm saying? And as of lately, for the first time, even myself tapping in with the Ethiopian opals, you know, that's becoming one of my favorite, you know, one of my favorite crystals to kind of tap in with. Because also, as you brought up, I think you brought up something about the placenta, and you made me think about the navel and like crystals that work with your navel chakra or your Dantian chakra, sacral chakra, you know, is also looking at where crystals are from, you know. So tapping in whether it's your actual bloodline ancestry or your basically like kindred spirit ancestry, like, you know, from the spiritual perspective, or like the physical bloodline, but like tapping in with crystals that's connected to your navel. But even for me with the Larimar, like, you know, my great grandfather was Haitian, you know, and Larimar is mine from the island of Hispaniola, which although it's considered the Dominican Republic, is just an imaginary line separating, you know, the Dominican Republic from Haiti. So, you know, like tapping in with crystals that, you know, connect with the navel and the matriarch aspect of the, you know, of the situation, because, you know, again, like the DNA aspect is also connected, not also, but, you know, connected to our mother. But yeah, you know, I would say that, like, you know, it's like a lot of, and I'm still You know,
words right out of my mouth. I was about to break it down. When the guy said, "Let's get to the stones," and it's like we also kind of sleep on that. They talk about Ethiopia, but they stay over there. Ethiopia still in stones. If you remember the movie Uncut Gems, it was all about Ethiopian opal. And if you remember that, you tapped into the universe. Go ahead.
and to add to that, I also noticed though, like low key, that's why I say like, man, Ethiopia on some like strong, like almost like, you know, Wakanda type of vibes. 'Cause I'm like, man, at the gym show, you don't really see nobody from outside of Ethiopia with the Ethiopian opals. Like you know, I was in Tucson. You know, now I know that's Ross Ben and you know the Bredger Ross Naeem. Like they legends to that area. You know, so my first time going around, I'm like, dang. You know, it's like you don't see just anybody with Ethiopian opals. Like it's an Ethiopian person. Like in most cases, like I rarely seen anybody, you know, outside of Ethiopia. And, you know, just knowing a little bit, like them mining from Waylo, you know, where they get most of them. And yeah, like tapping in with that energy. Cause again, like the crystal, like if we consider that all atoms, the law of vibration, everything vibrating, then everything is always talking. You know, so no matter if we came up on this video and just all sat here quiet for an hour, we'll still be talking. You feel me? You know, and hence like that vibe of like again, like we're working with the crystals, just putting them in the vicinity. You know, like that crystal is talking in your bath water. You know, talking around your neck. You know what I'm saying? And us like being a crystallization due to our, you know, habits or the things that we tap into, you know, crystallizing certain things through repetition, you know, but you know, it's like being that walking, talking crystal, but again, it's like that vibration that it gives off and tapping into that, you know, and lastly, I say also like being aware of what I call, or not like I coined it, but like spirit terraforming and knowing like what crystals you're working with and how that relates to certain spirits and stuff like that, you know, because I think of like amorphous crystals, you know, like with an obsidian, you know, is, and not to say like chaos is a toxic thing, you know, although a person could use it however they want, but like amorphous crystal is for a type of spirit that likes, you know, no structure. It likes to kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, hit like a moldavite, like bam, you know, or like a volcano eruption, bam, like, you know what I'm saying? Like how obsidian is made, where it's like going from hot to cold, you know what I'm saying? And speaking on that, like also with the opals tapping into, you know, what I feel from it is like the steam energy, you know, basically like fire and water. And in Vedic astrology, they call it the Gadanta point, and it's basically like the cusp between the fire and water signs. And I feel like, you know, if you had a lot of those placements in your chart, and especially right now, there's a lot of things moving from Pisces to Aries, and about to have that stellium in Aries, you know, like working with a steam type of crystal, you know, which would be like opal, you know, I would say Larimar because it's like the ocean and then got a little iron in it, or in hydro crystal that has a little bit of iron or hematite in it, you know, to tap into that fire water mix, you know what I'm saying? But you know, it's like looking at the crystals from that perspective and, you know, understanding like, you know, what we tapping into and being more intentional, you know, and again, and constantly being a student, as Ras Naeem brought up earlier, you know, it's like the master is understanding that you're constantly learning, you know, and yeah, you know, and enjoying the journey of learning, you know what I'm saying? But you know,
Yo, Rosnam, you and the guy always break. Like last week, y'all took me to a whole nother level. I got to show you some amber pieces I've been working on, but y'all took it to a whole nother level when you broke down amber, right? Can you do that same thing for opal for me?
Well, like I say, one thing I can guarantee you is that I know not. So I'm probably not the authority to give you a breakdown on the opal like that. I've worked with opal, but like I say, I'm just as much a student as I am one willing to share the portions that I have become more versed in. So versus talking out the side of my neck, I'm gonna give another person who's more versed in the actual formation process of opal to maybe offer you insight into, like you say, certain connections beyond just chemistry, you know?
Yes, sir. And it's the only reason I brought it up, like I say, Ethiopian opal is one of Ethiopia's biggest stones. So that's why I asked. And Universal Frequency, he said it so fast when he was like, yo, this is also one of the original dragon stones. This is also a universal manifestation stone. This is also something you could tap into the universe with. Rod, because I got a real important question I want to ask you, Rosman. But before I get there, did you have anything on opal? You on mute? You on mute, God?
Excuse me. I think Ethiopian opal is formed by percolating volcanic water. So it is an affirmation of what the brother was speaking on. Opal's like made with heat, water, like steam, you know, like percolating water that's mineral rich. You know, imagine a crystal, like a water that's percolating, but that water's full of calcium and full of silica and full of different minerals from the earth, but it's percolating, and so it's splashing those minerals all over the place. Like the brother said, it's like a chaotic formation. It's not a quiet, still place for the elements to crystallize. You know, it's a heat, pressure, boiling water, you know. Yeah. That's the environment opal forms in. And why they're so sought after is because they're translucent, meaning light passes through them. They're translucent, multicolored stone. So they'll have like, I think they call it opalescence or some name, because the way light moves through opal, because it's water rich, that's what makes them translucent. You know, the percolating water getting trapped in there. And then depending on what elements are in the water, it'll refract different colors. So you'll see greens and oranges and purples and reds all in one stone, flashing in one stone. And you know, you can move the stone or move your angle to the stone and you'll see different colors. So that's why opals are highly valued. Mexico makes some opals too, called Mexican fire opals. Ethiopia is known for opals, and I think India as well. There's some opals coming out of India. So that's my awareness of opals, and you're right. So now, when you go to those big gym shows, I'll say in the earlies, right? You would see Brazilians with Brazilian stones and Peruvians with Peruvian stones, but you would tend to see colonizers with African stones. Okay? Not Ethiopia. And not the Ethiopian opals. Like you see some opal at the gym show? Like the best price, best quality? Yeah. was the
Especially
Ethiopian.
that black opal.
Yeah. So that is, something that was impressive to see.
I see.
And but opals ain't cheap.
Nah, they ain't.
Ethiopians ain't cheap with them either. They know the value of them.
The custodians. Speaking of custodians, we said the Ethiopian is custodian of time, custodian of the covenant of the ark. But one time, me and you were having a conversation, and I love the conversation we were having because we don't have it enough. And Raz Ben is a custodian of the land. He was breaking down how sometimes we pretty much we raping the land. We not we, but the ones that are bombing the land and digging in the land and taking. The earth used to give it to us. Mother Earth used to give us the stones. They give us the turquoise. You can find turquoise. You can find tanzanite. But when they found it, they got to dig for more. They got to take it now. Oh, you gave it to me. Now I want to take more. Can you break that down? How you said it, Chief? When you were like, how we pillaging the land?
Sweet surrender. Yeah, because all right. So now we're not necessarily taking it out of the earth. Okay. Some stones leave the geosphere to the atmosphere. It's still in the earth. We're in the earth. We're in the atmosphere of the earth, right? But some stones leave the geosphere and come up to the atmosphere to heal the earth one human at a time, right? But when we become a custodian of one of them crystals that come up to the atmosphere, like, I think it's important how it was birthed to the atmosphere. Now, the earth gives a lot of stones to the atmosphere naturally on a regular basis. You go to some foots of mountains after rain, and crystals will have been washed out of the rain and congregate down at the bottom of the mountain. Or there's places like in Utah where, like Moki marbles, these ancient iron concretions, you can just go and collect, or even right here in Philadelphia, there's a place in Philly, you can just go and get garnets, like you could fill your pockets with garnets, they're not red, they're more brownish, they're not, like what some would consider gem quality. But yeah, they're just right here on the surface, right here in Philadelphia. But another good reason to go to those bigger gym shows is because it's an opportunity to connect with people who they're like custodians of some land or custodians of a mind, and they're conscious about how the crystals are harvested, like certain corporations, certain industries, they'll just blow the top of a mountain off to get to the crystals, or they'll toxify the creeks and rivers and streams near the mine in their extraction process and not really care, if they're toxifying the land, right? But then there's some people who, they're custodians of the land. They don't want to blow a hole in the mountain that's their vista every day, right? And tradition tells them that their ancestrals land netter, earth netter, dwells in that mountain. They're not gonna blow it up to get some crystals for $40 a pound or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Nah. So it's worth going to the gym shows to find them people and meet with them people.
I see.
Because that energy's on the crystal too. You know, it's a sweet surrender. And yeah. That's something I've been enjoying doing over the decades, you know.
I see. Rosnan, how you feel about that? The extraction of stones from the way we used to find the indigenous people. It was ceremonial to pass these stones, to be custodian of these stones, to give gifts to these. You know what I'm saying? Like Universal Frequency said, some can look at us as materialistic, but some of us look at us as raw because we actually know how to use the stones. So while they looking at us being materialistic, we actually know what to do with the stones. How do you feel about them? What I call raping the land.
At the seal up of last strengths reasoning, we were discussing the cardinal place that good relationships hold, maintaining, keeping, nurturing good relationship holds as we do this work. You know, it is ultimately prerequisite. When we say Asasi Aduru, the earth is heavy and many hands make for light work, it speaks to the necessity for cooperation, the necessity to have the ability to cooperate. If we are not equipped, able, and or willing to move from a mind of duality, you know, if we are unwilling to evolve in such a way where when the experiences of life that have the potential to be polarized, that we don't possess within us the understanding of the power of harmony and harmonizing opposites, then whatever we pursue is going to be tainted with the potential of conflict, right? So when Ross is sitting here and breaking down the sweet surrender, I would say it's what separates the wheat from the chaff. Because all money ain't good money, right? The best things in life are free. And this work that we do is part of what we say. My father's many mansions. In my father's house, there are many mansions. We recognize the sanctity, the sacredness of what we're working with. You know, we recognize that we are going to put a program on these materials, whether we're mindful of it or not, right? We recognize that those who have had possession or custodian of these materials before us have put a program on this material, you know, and as part of, well, not part of, the foundation of this work for us is spiritual. It is a proclamation that if there are infinite treasures, right? Why is there a need to scramble for the loot? Why are we fighting over the loot? Why are we selling our soul for any trifle? How have we, right? How have we forsaken the principles of Ma'at, which are fundamental to eternal life, for one material thing or some kind of material experience? It's ridiculous, right? So infinite treasures is a proclamation that in our Father's house there are many mansions, right? And we have been charged as custodians to properly identify and allocate and administer these many mansions, the wisdom of the many mansions to the people, you know, creating forms and utilizing them in ways where the people can reestablish a healthy connection with the natural order of things. And in this case, it is the mineral kingdom. So, to top my point, when we're speaking about good relationships, we're speaking about morality. If we're speaking about morality, we're speaking about ma'at, right? And the thing about Rastafari that really, how could I say, resonated most with me were principles that I couldn't find in any other spiritual community to the point to that point in my life. Primary principle being freedom of worship. Every man got the right to decide his own destiny. I ain't hear no other minister, imam, or priest proclaiming this. Most of the spiritual teachings that I had been passing through were pretty absolute. Our path is the only way to salvation. Rastafari, one of his first decrees as emperor, even before emperor, as king of kings, was freedom of worship, making it illegal for people to be persecuted because of their faith. One of the first things he did was build mosques all over Ethiopia, build synagogues all over Ethiopia. Even though Ethiopia is a Christian nation, he took the initiative to show as a stately position, as a leadership position, freedom of worship, right? And beyond that, when we think about what we consider even modern day laws and rights, we go back to the time when His Majesty was on the throne, when World War II was popping off, when Ethiopia was being invaded. There was no such thing as civil rights. There was no such thing as even human rights. These cats was doing whatever they want to people all over the earth with no accountability, no consequences. So it wasn't until post-World War II, with the initiative of His Majesty to create what they call a Declaration for Human Rights. This is the handiwork of His Majesty Haile Selassie, scribed the Declaration of Human Rights, which is the charter that is supposed to bind the United Nations today. So again, when we're looking at Rastafari, me personally, we're looking at morality on an international stage. We're looking at morality being championed. And I don't know that I've seen this in any other head of state, to set aside personal gains, to, relinquish the ability to exploit resources and exploit the people for the benefit of the whole. This is because we are at the head of state, Yeah. So, and we know what morality is, ma'atical law. So when we're doing these works, if we don't keep these things in perspective, that it's better to give than to receive, that to whom much is given, much is required. And right, if you know better, then you got to do better, right? They say ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know no better and you carrying on away, hey, it maybe not. From you know better, judgment comes swift. The judgment comes swift. So, right, we prefer to take the time, we prefer to take the long navigating road around the back part of the mountain to get to the gems versus taking the steepest cliffs, dealing with the sketchiest characters, scrambling for loot for the sake of a profit. Nah, that's not the work we're doing. This work is redemption work. It's generational bloodline redemptive work. And our hands and our heart have to be in order to make sure the works are of the highest order. So that's my take on that.
As the religion aspect, I don't care about religion, period, myself, because my people are around way before this. My people are just like the Stones. We were around way before religion. So I don't care. I don't care about no mosque, no synagogue, no church, none of that. Because I know that regardless of what kind of so-called friendly gesture that was, it was infiltration. So that don't move me one way or the other. What moves me is before the church or the mosque or anything, we had temples and pyramids and all sorts of different things right there in Kush or Ethiopia. The brother said about India, before there was an Islam or Judaism or anything, Kush bled all the way into what they call now India and things of that nature when you come to the great Naga and the great, the Serpent Kings. Also, universal frequencies. You were talking about parasites earlier. what would be in those back in the days? We were talking about ridding your body from parasites. What would those things be called back in the days? Of I guess you would call those religious people.
You say, wait, like what would you call parasites? Say it again so I could really.
Like what would be another word for parasite if we were in the ancient times of Kush? What would be another word for parasite? What do you think the sheikhs were and all the philosophers and doctors back then were calling parasites?
Man, you got me with that one, bro. Like nothing really.
I think we think it too deep, but parasite loosely is a demon, right? And you run them things out your body. We can call it, you know what I'm saying? But we can call it parasite, we can call it demon, whatever. But it's still something that's leeching or like you said, leeching off of your essence.
Like an energetic vampire. I'm tracking with you. Yes. And what you have there is that, right? Parasites vibrate on a low frequency, and so do energetic vampires. So they are technically one and the same, one in the physical manifestation as a parasite, whereas energetically, yes, like vampires and what they call them, the jinn, just unsettled spirits.
I'll say. And the reason I brought that, Rosnam just kind of pretty much hit it. Universal frequencies, you know what I'm saying? The frequencies we have, we vibrate at certain, or even when we get back into the bells, the singing bowls, you just talking about the ancient Naga was the ones that invented that too, the singing bowls and bronze and brass and copper to keep no parasites or demons out of our frequency. Silver, iron. Go ahead, God.
And as Ras Naeem said, like basically the energy vamps would be like a better way to say it, in the sense of like, because when you said that, I also thought of like with the demon aspect. I'm like, well, technically, like when you think of the story of like turning the milk from the mountain, it was both the devas and the asuras, or quote unquote demons, you know what I'm saying, that helped to churn the mountain. So it wasn't necessarily like getting rid of the demons, but again, that kind of goes into, the Semitics and kind of wordplay and stuff like that, and what's the official word for a demon and stuff like that. But I can say, yeah, like just basically something that's trying to possess you or take possession of your vehicle. So it's basically like trying to get rid of whatever's trying to, possess your vehicle. And that goes into also, like, as we brought up already, with the taking a bath, because I went to go get my they call ferro cylinders, but like one is like mainly shungite, and this one, it has chariot and some other crystals in it, but it's basically like to balance the yin and yang energies in the body. But like the shungite, you know what I'm saying, like basically detoxifying the body. Got a little piece of shungite in the water with a little bit of tourmaline for some piezoelectricity. And matter of fact, in particular, pink tourmaline, you know what I'm saying, to keep the heart chakra right, but yeah, it's definitely like a vibe of basically removing whatever's trying to possess, our vehicle. Because again, like that urge that oh man, I want a muffin today, or I want to eat this today, is like, that may be more of a parasite speaking, trying to, possess your body, and not, the true essence of your being speaking. So, it's like,
right.
You were talking about sugar, those sugar urges. And for me, what I do is I switch them out. I might have an urge for something and I eat pumpkin seed. Or I might have an urge for something, I might eat something that I'm knowing, or cloves. You know what I'm saying? 9 times 10, you just want the act of chewing on something, or you know what I'm saying? Pause. But put cloves in there, pumpkin seeds, stuff like that, and it's you up those certain frequencies. Somebody had a great question. Well, they asked, where can we get crystal skulls? And one besides crystal skulls, I mean, we're in the age of you can have whatever you want now. You know what I'm saying? So you can have whatever you're looking for. What would y'all have on that? Where was the best place to get some crystal skulls?
We have some crystal skulls on deck. What do they want? Clear quartz crystal skulls. We got some lapis crystal skulls. We got some what else? We got some amethyst crystal skulls. We got small ones like this already. Like you said, it's just more a matter of exactly what stone, what crystal do they want to get in a skull form. But yeah, we got sources on those things for sure.
Yeah. I love me some crystal skulls too. People be scared of skulls, but I love crystal skulls because it represents the ancestors. Everybody be scared of skulls. I be like, I can guarantee you, everybody on the channel right now has a skull. You know what I'm saying? That's your walkie-talkie to your ancestors. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes. We here, right? And we can't have this we can't have this room with all of these master alchemists, all these mineral alchemists, without tapping into it. So I want to go around the room and ask each one of the gods, and please don't you know what I'm saying? We can touch on the same one that the other one did, but I want, because we all know different ones. Universal frequencies. Let's go around the room and say name one tektite or one tektite or meteorite that you like working with. We were on Earth for, you know what I'm saying? We hit Ethiopia for a second. Let's go into the universe. Which tektites do you like working with?
Man, I mean, you know, well, considering that people not familiar with my YouTube channel, you know, it goes to Moldavite, you know, off top, you know, like Moldavite has been like a crystal that I've learned to connect with, you know, and at first, you know, seeing how like the whole situation of how like a Moldavite will leave you, you know what I'm saying? If you're either trying to overuse it, you know, also if you're trying to use it for like shortcuts and shit like that, excuse my language, try and use it for shortcuts, you know, overuse it, you know, and through the years, you know, having to realize also back to the whole Ark of the Covenant vibes, you know, is like having to be grounded to harness all of that energy and what's coming through with a Moldavite, you know, and through the maturation of connecting with the Moldavites, you know what I'm saying? I finally reached a place where now my Moldavites don't run away and I sparingly use them. You know, I only use them in moments like from an intentional space, you know, because even now, like I got a Moldavite and, you know, I only put it on or use it, you know, in certain moments, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, personally, I would say Moldavite, and also, again, setting that intention, you know, because I know a Moldavite in most cases goes to like, you know, the high chakras, but like I'd be like, you know, like Moldavite, we tapping into the heart space and the body, like we grounding this energy, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to be as the movie everything everywhere all at once, you know what I'm saying? Like this ain't the moment for that. Now again, some crystals are what they are in essence, but I do find that, you know, I do get more of like a, you know, a grounded experience by setting that intention with it. But just simply, yeah, Moldavite would be like one of my, you know, my tops or favorites that I connect with, you know, in most cases, you know.
Yes, sir. God, Ron, how about you? What's your favorite? What outside of Motivate? What's your favorite? Or unless you want to touch on that Motivate, but what tektite do you recommend?
I'm a little partial to the nickel iron meteorites. It's something about them, man. I'm a Capricorn, and like you say, they have this quality of you know, loftiness, lofty elevation. That's some elite shungite up there with it as well. Those are Herkimers flanking it on either side. But this particular Ankh, man, was fashioned in the days, wow, it's coming because the time is coming up, but the days leading up to the passing of my mother-in-law. Yeah, my wife's mother checked out when this was in the process of being created. Yeah, and it got one of those not tektites, but nickel iron meteorites, you know. And it's something about that, you know, just their whole relationship with magnets as well that they just intrigue me. So I'm not opposed to the tektites. I like them, but again, just my nature, I tend to, without solid grounding, be kind of spacey. So with the nickel iron meteorites and that magnetic quality they offer, where, you know, I can go on that vision, but still be firmly anchored and in order, you know, down here on the geosphere, you know, thing called Earth, you know, while I'm processing this information that is of a celestial source. So I'm a little partial to the nickel iron meteorites.
I shall say. How about you, Ron?
Yeah, I'm kind of like Naeem, where I'm a space cadet, man. I'll be lost in space any given day, you know? So the Tech Type family, they tend to get me too spacey. So I have worked with the Moldavite, but I tend to like the iron, nickel, meteorites. They're more grounding. And there's one, what's the one that had a manganese in it? It's there's this one, it's an iron nickel one, but then it'll have manganese in it. And the manganese parts will be translucent. They call it olivine.
Yeah.
Olivine?
Palisite or
Palisade, yeah.
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
It's almost like a lot. I like them a lot. I like the ones with the manganese and the iron and the nickel. They're expensive, you know.
That's something they don't talk about like that. They don't talk about that one.
Yeah. That's the meteorite I like. Of the Tech Type family, I would have to say Moldavite is, like, I've worked with Moldavite. I like those Libyan glass Tech Types too.
Yeah.
Excuse me, coming out of Libya. They're gold. And I like them. But they could be a little too space cadet for me too. You know, I can't rock them a lot. Or they have me spaced out, lost in space.
I sure say that. Man, I love all of those. I would say, and I know Universal Frequency might get on to me about that. Could say the regular black Tech Type. How you feel about Centimani Stone? Because I know some people think Centimani Stone isn't a Tech Type, but they do call it the Fire Pearl. I love Motivate. That would have been one of my favorite ones because by me being an Aries, that's right in my nature to be rapid fire. And so I love those fire pearls. So when you look in the ancient history of fire pearls, it's Agdamanitite, Centimani Stone, and Columbianite. One of my favorites is the Centimani Stone. That's a very, very powerful stone. Do any of y'all work with the Centimani?
I can't say I've worked with it.
Ooh, I gotta get
with a couple so I could try it out.
I got you. Stay less. You got a universal?
No, I never used that one, but you just made me think about the Columbianite and Agdamanitite. I felt like those, and also like Tibetan Tektites, like have more of that grounded feeling. But again, like as Ras Naeem and Ras Ben said, like the nickel iron, because my first nickel iron one, it was called Mu'anya Lusta or something like that. I think the name, I might be pronouncing it wrong, you know, but it's a nickel iron Tektite as well that was pretty good. It reminded me of, like, the best way to explain it was like a grounded Uranus experience, like the way Uranus is expressed out of Aquarius energy, like where you kind of scientific, you know, it kind of gives off that vibe, but like, again, like from a grounded perspective. But no, the pearl one, what's the name of it again? Centimani. Centimani, all right. I haven't worked with that one yet. I haven't connected with that one, I'd rather say, yet.
I mean, like you said, most of those space Tektites give a lot of great energy, where Motivate kind of is sentient. It kind of knows what you need and it's going to get things out your way. Centimani is more of a I don't want to say the word wishful stone, but it is powerful when it comes to manifestation. Like my Motivate, most Tektites as well. You know what I'm saying? Living desert glass, like OG just said. But I'm just really rocking with that Centimani, that energy, and it's both grounding and kind of spaced out at the same time, to where it kind of speaks to you. Like Motivate and Centimani speak to you like Jumanji. What you was about to say?
And to call out what the Ross with the Bridges expressing, you know, it's like, yeah, because I even had to like acknowledge like with me taking psychedelics and like almost having quote unquote addiction to that kind of like chaotic or like, ooh, like, you know, just like that like again, like crash into earth, like, you know, spaced out energy, you know, and had to call that out. Hence why I had to stop working with Moldavite. So it is like, again, because that's another thing too, is like keeping it real about these things and not just romanticizing like, oh, get you a piece of Moldavite. It's like, nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, we tap in with it, but you know, you got to know what you're doing when you tap into it. Hence why I had to make videos refining me expressing like tapping into Moldavite, because again, me coming from, you know, Opelousas, Louisiana, with no background on none of this, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of like going through the situation through experience. And, you know, as a scientist or alchemist, you know, like learning from experience, I kind of got like that earthy aspect of like, I got to see it and can't just read about it in a lot of cases to feel like I actually, you know a little something about it. Like, again, like they say, not reading about a squirrel to know how a squirrel operate, but go and connect with a squirrel, you know, to know how I operate. But yeah, you know, it's definitely one of those things where, you know, you want to be grounded and, you know, be able to call yourself out on that. Cause I had to do a video about like how Moldavite in a toxic way was promoted for that little shortcut energy. Like, you know, like people looking for like a shortcut or like looking for that quick fix, you know, it's like be aware, you know what I'm saying? Like it could be used in a, you know, or people promoting it in a way to get you to just kind of jump into, you know, some stuff and move or look for shortcuts. And, you know, that's not the way. So it's like, you know, being aware, again, no fear mongering about it, just awareness. Like, hey, you know, it's best to be grounded in, you know what I'm saying, in your approach to dealing with the, again, like the meteorites, you know, so.
And you had mentioned something a little while ago, universal frequency, about amorphous formations versus crystalline formations. The peptides are going to be a more amorphous. Amorphous
Yes.
meaning at the molecular level, the way the molecules are bonded together, there's really no order. They're random. You know what I'm saying? It's like the difference between an ice cube. Ice cube is ice, but a snowflake is organized ice, organized on a molecular level, right? So with these nickel iron meteorites, one of the things that intrigued me the most is when they slice them, you can see the tessellation, you can see the crystallization in this space metal. You know what I'm saying? It is a crystal. It is a iron crystal, nickel space crystal, and you can see what you, like I say, the different patterns that when they do the side slice, and like I say, for just these chapters of my life, order is fundamental. You know, I think it too, right? I'm gonna digress one step forward. That we're working with the Gem and Mineral Kingdom. We can't forget one of the most important principles when we're doing this work, because we can sometimes outthink ourselves, right? If we make it purely an intellectual process. But again, returning to the heart, there is this law, what they call the law of natural attraction. When you're at a gym shop, when you're at a gym show, you'll notice that there's all kind of interesting things. If you're like us, you know, I got it bad. All of them talk to me, but every time there's always seemingly one or two. If there's hundreds of them out there, there's a few that seem to just keep catching my eye, or I pick it up, I can't put it back down. That's an important part of this process, what we call the law of natural attraction, right? We set up in our local community once a week to administer to our people, and the people come to the table all the time. I want something for this. I want something. What stone does this, this, and that? And the reality is that I've never walked a day in nobody's shoes but these two right here. So even if I knew all the information for every stone, which I don't, I'm still going to be biased. I'm going to carry the bias of my journey in my explanation and or in my attraction to the qualities or attributes of a stone. Versus, again, when we set up, we got hundreds of different stones on the table. Instead of me trying to answer their necessary requests, we encourage folks to, you know, take your time. You know, slow down, take a deep breath. Where they say, stop and smell the roses. Go through, look at what we have. If there's something that keeps catching your eye, pick that up. Let's start from there, because more likely than not, we know what the name of the stone is. We got the information. We can do the research. We can walk it backwards. And within this order, then more time what we find is that the people slow down. They go across the table. They go back to that stone that was kept calling their name, kept catching their eye, bring it up. What is this? Boom, it's that. They do the research in the book right there on the spot. This is just what I needed. This is just what I needed. So saying all that to say, the law of natural attraction is real. It's real. Just what we're talking about when we're talking about affinity, when we're talking about alchemy, our body will it when we're being obedient, when we get out of our own way and
we're in touch with
when
ourselves.
we're in touch. Sometimes, right, we can think ourselves out of a good situation. So, that's what we say. Start from the heart to cool space, trust your own inner knowing. And if it's something that keep catching your eye or something you pick up and you can't put down, let's start from there. Start from there. We'll walk the research in reverse,
Sure. Man, before we get out of here, man, Rosman,
yo,
tell us how we can support you, what you got coming up next. Because I was going to ask another good question, but man, they're going to take up forever. I was going to ask about synergy stones, but I think that's the topic for next time. Tell us how can we support you and what you got coming up next, Chief.
Well, I mentioned the last strong. What I see is a vision. And I got to expand that vision now. I see infinite treasures. I see yourself. I see myself. And what's the brother's name? Universal Law?
Universal Frequency.
Universal Frequency. I see us all at the Franklin, North Carolina Gem and Mineral Show. Meeting up with the community, with your community and the Brethrens community. And all of our communities, I see us all at the gym show. I think it's in what is it in July, Ross?
Yeah, there's 2 shows. They have one at the end of May.
Right.
That what they call it Memorial Week and All African Liberation Day, May 25th. And then they do another one in the middle of July. That will be the one that is more conducive. I got a high school senior coming out this year, and that May show is going to be a time conflict.
Gives us time for this to materialize, but I see us there in the middle of July, broadcasting live.
I see.
Yeah, just getting it in. So
executing the sweet surrender.
Meeting people that own minds and making it happen and. Yeah. So that's what I got on the vision,
I say, man, Rob. Well, no, I'm gonna do Rosman last. Universal Frequencies. What's your YouTube? How can we find you on YouTube? How we can find you on social media? How can we support your channel?
YouTube channel is spelled exactly like how my name is right here, Universal Frequencies. And when you go to the main page, it'll have all the links to my Instagram, my Discord server. If you want to donate, got the Cash App, Venmo, PayPal links, and then also have my Etsy shop, the link to my Etsy shop, Epic Lifestyles. So yeah, go into the YouTube channel and you go to the main channel, click underneath it. I have all the links that you need to connect with, to connect. But, that's basically it. And again, Epic Lifestyles on Instagram, where I mainly post, and Universal Frequencies 1 on Instagram, where I post. And again, that's simply it. And just gratitude for everybody that have been along with me throughout the journey, And yeah, give thanks, most definitely.
I see. And last but not least, Roz, now we got to do this, man. Somebody asked about the crystal skulls.
Oh, man.
They said they want crystal skulls.
Huh? Hey, your folks been showing up real time, brother. I'm telling you, the website has been popping. And one order in particular, somebody came in there showing tremendous love, and they referred you. They were referred by you. They spoke directly that they found us through you or through your channel, through your network. So, yes, I am the one and only Ras Naeem of Infinite Treasures. And this is where we specialize in creating tools and jewels that are designed to enhance our connections with the heavens and the earth. www.infiniteTreasuresPlural.org or www.infiniteTreasuresLLC.com. Yeah, this is where we specialize in creating these things. We talking about enhancing our connections with the heavens and the earth. We're speaking about all things spiritual, right? And how, what do they call it, where the heavens meet the earth? It's divinity, you know? Yeah, so we realize that most of us are navigating a synthetic reality. You know, most of what we're dealing with day in and day out has no real vibrational value that benefits the journey of our soul. You know, we walking past the roses. Remember now, the rose is the highest botanical frequency on the planet. It's the highest vibrating botanical substance on the planet. So when they say stop and smell the roses, there's implications there. It suggests that more time, we're moving so fast through life that we kicking right past the things that we need to take a little time, catch a little medi, give a little thanks, you know, put some gratitude out before we start the hustle and bustle and grind of a rat race. And then chances are, even if most of the day is a hustle, a bustle, and a grind, the morning dew, the little tidbits that descend from the heavenly realm, we're still open to receive those. So yeah, Infinite Treasures. This is what we're doing. We're building these reminders. We're building this technology. We are able tech.
I say.
We're building We Are Able Tech for a generation ready to receive their portion, not from, like you say, old worn out systems, old, what they call it, status quo and or contemporary realms of understanding and relaying spirituality. What is coming for the remnant on earth today has never been seen before. You know, no one can explain it. No one will know the time or the hour. Best thing we can do is make sure that we keeping our temple in such a way where it can resonate with whatever frequencies coming in. Because your vibe is too dense, your vibe is too slow, too low, too subtle, too lustful. Then when them heavenly frequencies pass by, yeah, man, you can't pick it up. If you're full of filth, you know, yeah, you can't pick it up if you're full of filth, them heavenly frequencies. So time is now, and look, we're in position to, redeem many a generation. Many of we foremothers and forefathers, you know, was waiting for us to come in and carry out this portion in our time. So we're ready. Yeah, we're ready for the treasures.
Yeah, man. Please show a couple more of them crystal skulls, man. Let them know, you know what I'm saying? They got the variety. You got to. I want some stuff off. You know what I'm saying?
I got them in the cases, brother. They're kind of buried. I'll have some for next week. I'll pull some out. I keep this one up here.
Hey, Frederick, Ras Naeem.
Yes,
close this out proper, because you know, me and Ross, when we used to come on these airwaves, we block a prayer.
Yes.
And I blocked one last strong. Let Ross end it with this one, please.
I say.
All right. So glory unto word, glory unto sound, glory unto power, glory unto the Iwa, glory unto the Holy One of creation, Emperor Haile Selassie Jah,
Rastafari,
King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of thyself, light of the world, Haile Selassie. So we give thanks for this day and the very many blessings and all of the provisions, all the love, guidance, and protection all around Baltayanai. We're thankful for this day. We're thankful that it has been a strengthening unto we, body, mind, and soul. We're giving thanks for our ancestors, many generations of blood, sweat, and tears. Give us strength in these times to stand in light of the Most High. We give thanks for our elders, the wise minds, the knowledge, and overstanding, guiding I and I through these times. We give thanks for the youth. Their life and love is the light and hope for redemption, liberation, repatriation in the sight of the Most High. And we give thanks for I and I, Divine Union, Alpha and Omega. It is the foundation upon which I and I stand in the name of the Most High, Jah. Rastafari, Emperor Haile Selassie, the Divine Empress, Mama Amiga, Empress Menen, and thy blessings unto I and I, if it is in our highest good, and if it's in the highest good of all life everywhere. I and I pray thee that the hungry be fed, the naked clothed, sick nourished, the aged protected, and infants cared for.
Yes, sir.
We give thanks for this fellowship in this time of gathering and reasoning. We are but tools for the ready writer, and we acknowledge and accept the responsibility to administer truth to our folks. Yes, I. So we pray then that as we go our separate ways, we continue our work, our research, our development. Yes, I, for the healing of the nations.
Healing of the nations.
Yes,
I.
Man. They say they most definitely gonna be following y'all on your IGs and YouTubes, man. We appreciate the elders for y'all wisdom once again and everything that y'all have done. You know what I'm saying? Way before this was cool. Like I said, you had universal frequencies. You had Rise Ben putting in Rise 9, putting in work about this mineral kingdom. So we got to utilize this information. So once again, thank y'all for your time, and I hope to see y'all next week. I say.
Next strong, brethren.
Every rap is intentional. A reminder that we are all connected, from the cosmos to the core. Welcome back, family, to the frequency. Here, we honor the stone people, the record keepers, ancient memory. Tonight, we listen to our elders, the wise women, the seers,